Hello and welcome to yet another edition of 21 Minutes with KKB. My name is Kwabena Kyenkyenhene Boateng. Today my guest is a gentleman a number of you know. He usually causes a lot of trends on social media when he talks. He's loved by many and hated by a lot more. I don't know why, but right after this break, I'll introduce to you that university lecturer who has got many talking for years now. Stay with us. My guest today is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. He's also the head of Youth Bridge Institute right here in Ghana. Professor Ransford Yaw Gyampo is here on 21 Minutes with KKB. Prof, good morning.
Morning.
Hope all is well.
By the grace of God.
They say you've been in oblivion for a while, but some way, somehow, you are out of the wilderness. Is that the case?
I've never been in oblivion. I mean, those who said I've been in oblivion, maybe they are not paying attention. Every Ghanaian who is politically switched on knows that I cannot be silenced. I have never been in oblivion. I've been saying my mind, I mean, right from the word go.
2020 has been a very difficult year for a lot of people the world over, but particularly for you, it's been a much more traumatic one, I suppose. Between 2019 and 2020, you've had to endure a lot and go through a lot. How has the journey been? How has it been? I mean, and taking yourself out of all of these entanglements here and there, accusations here and there, and all.
I'm a man. These things are meant to come so that they toughen you. They are meant to come so you can also draw closer to your maker. They are meant to come so they test your resilience and all that. And so I know what you are talking about. I mean, the people's orchestrations just for a certain agenda. And I was a main target. But it is fine. I think we have been able to put matters behind us. I have been reinstated by my university. I've started working, and I do not intend to dignify what was done against me. I'm forgiving. People have actually come to me to apologize. I don't want to mention names, but those who were really behind it, they've reached out to me, and I'm a Christian. I do not want to give the discussion of...
So it was a deliberate attempt to do what to you? To destroy your reputation, to sabotage you?
Well, maybe you may have to... I can tell you off camera, but the point is, I do not want to dignify what was done against me. By the grace of God, I wasn't silenced. By the grace of God, I didn't die.
So then the agenda was to silence you?
Well, maybe I wouldn't know, but I mean, from all indications, some people would have laughed that, well, don't talk again and all that. But you see, my wife tells me I talk even when I sleep, and so not until I die, I will not stop talking.
That's interesting. But I mean, I can imagine, particularly for your working relationship with a lot of these international partners, sometimes it's a pretty big deal. They consider these things very, very seriously. I remember the Me Too movement and all of the things that happened elsewhere, and its impact on some actors, So for you in this sphere and with the kind of work you do, how did this impact on your professional life?
Well, I mean, to show courtesy and respect to them, I mean, something has been said about you. You have to be investigated, and you have to go through a certain process to be sure whether you are guilty or you're not guilty. And so I had to reach out to them to tell them that, look, I want to file this. And so let's put all relationships on hold and let's clear matters before. There were some who insisted that no, continue. But then I managed to convince them that let us get things over and done with. Afterwards, we can continue. So, I mean, some listened, some were disappointed and all that. And so I think it's a matter of principle. I felt that I had to go through a certain process, and to be able to get the real focus to go through it, I needed to put everything on hold. And so I did that, and by the grace of God, I went through it, and then we are out. I don't know how those behind it felt, but the point is, I knew I had not done anything, and I didn't know how I was going to be so much affected. Of course, our family, and you have people who admire you, you have people who look up to you. I have my parents, who are alive, and they would be affected. And so the fact that it affected other people affected me, but not the
So for instance, let's look at your wife. When the news broke, what was her first question to you? What did she ask you?
She said she knew I wouldn't do that, and that it was God's own doing of drawing me much closer to himself.
So your wife never doubted you?
No. She said God wants you to get closer to him. And yes, I was a Christian. I was a Christian, but I wasn't that much serious.
I see.
But
I see.
After some of these things, I mean, there are certain things you cannot even understand why somebody could sit down and plan some of these things against you. And so if you don't understand, you give it to God and get more closer to him, because he's been our source of protection. I am Ransford Yaw Gyampo not because I'm smart.
I've been seeing your status and how you've been singing a lot of
it's not
hymns here and there.
It's not because I'm smart, not because people taught me, and those who taught me, they are alive and all that. So it's not because of anything. It's just because God has given me some grace, and so that is it. So it was a time to rethink our relationship with our Maker and to get closer to him, and to ask for pardon if we erred in any way and all that, and to decide to be on the path that he wants us to be and all that. So we are still swimming in the grace of God.
A number of people have defended you, lecturers, students, journalists, reporters. A lot of people have defended you, even politicians. The same people, some say, may have been behind this. Some have come out to defend you, to say, hey, you know what, for all you know, it wasn't even as it's being portrayed. Maybe there's some context which justifies it.
Well, everything that happened, I mean, the video you saw, everything was taken out of context. We, at the various investigative processes, we asked for the full video to be shown. They
never
didn't.
came.
We asked for those who, those behind it to show up to be cross-examined. They didn't show up.
I know you've been following the political discourse. I mean, you always do, but particularly at this time, with barely 3 months to the polls, campaigns have heated up. A lot of people have come up to suggest a lot of things. The NPP and NDC have both outdoored their manifestos. There appears to be a lot in there as to whether those things are rather the things we want to see or hear is another thing, and whether or not even implementing them will be the easiest of tasks is another thing. For instance, these political figures talk of free access to internet, free tertiary vocational education training, part payment of tertiary fees and everything, and even some, to an extent, an amendment sort of the FreeSHS policy and all. Generally, what's your take on the two documents you have seen so far? I
think strategically the NDC also delayed theirs. And I'm sure they tweaked, because I know they were supposed to land theirs on a certain date and they changed it and all that. So when they did theirs recently, you could see some amount of borrowing from what had taken place previously.
That's unfair.
Oh no, but no, it's not wrong. I mean, if you borrow and you borrow well, just to
make you look good.
Well, not to also appeal, to appeal to the citizen. The two are all seeking to appeal to us and to be able to communicate well so that we understand things well. I think it's not a big deal. Everybody, Prof, listen.
To say they borrowed, I mean, you can think of an idea now. I may think of a similar idea. Research has proven that is possible.
So you don't want me to say they borrowed? Okay, well, well, if they didn't borrow, I saw semblance of how MPP did their lunch, with how the NDC did their lunch. And for me, it's not a big deal. They all said all that they wanted to say. They showed Mahama's achievement when he was in power, and then the kinds of things that they want to do. So MPP promised a lot, and NDC also promised a lot. Promised so many things. In fact, both parties have been totalitarian in their promises. What I mean by that is that they have promised to cover almost every aspect of human life and all that. But you see, my challenge is that, I have a few challenges. My challenge is that the history of Ghana's Fourth Republic show that no political party since independence has been able to achieve every manifesto content. They say everything, knowing very well that they can't do everything. So my point is, why do you promise everything knowing very well you can't do everything? You see, what is happening is that sometimes because they want to escape strict accountability and strict proof, they rush to implement manifesto contents, even though not all.
Are you speaking about FreeSHS in this context?
What I said, let me speak generally, then you can fit in. Let me give
a general context.
How do you call it? Maths. The universal set, then you can be doing subsets and all that. But you see, they promise a lot, and in their quest to fulfill the promises, they pussyfooty the implementation of what is encapsulated in their manifesto. What I mean by that is that, you see, they scratch the surface. Kwame Nkrumah constructed the motorway, and you know that the motorway has been able to stand the test of time. Okay, but today, if a politician promises a road, it's a road that will be done in an election year. So sometimes, for instance, if there's going to be a by-election, you have 3 days. Within 3 days, a road will be constructed and tarred and asphalted. You have street lights, on the road, so just because of a by-election, so that after 6 months, it deteriorates. And these are the kinds of things that sometimes politicians want to point to. And I'm saying they sacrifice quality. And so my point is that, why don't you focus on just four projects? Do them, implement them with your soul in them. Okay? Do them and do them very well. Get out of the scene. Or you do that within just 4 years. The next 4 years, identify other 4 and accomplish them very well. You get out of the scene. Let another regime come. Let them also single out just 3, 4 signature projects. Okay, so there are so many projects that politicians did when they were in power. Those projects have collapsed, and we cannot identify them, those projects, with the names of the politicians who introduced them, because they've collapsed. But if they had lasted, okay, then we would have been able to say that, well, you did this and still put your name or attach your name to those projects and all that. So my point is that, let's just focus on 3 or 4 or 5 projects and then tackle them very well. That is where we'll be able to develop. Otherwise, we would always be constructing roads. See, the roads that MPP has promised doing, some of the roads that NDC did, some of them have deteriorated. The roads that MPP has promised, that they will be doing, they will do them, and then you would give yourself the next 5 years or something, they will be deteriorated. And if that happens, you cannot attach your name to a road that has been deteriorated, and then somebody, has had to come and construct it again. So my point is that, rather than saying everything, knowing that you can't do everything, focus on few, do them and do them well. Okay, so that we would not be shortchanged as a people in terms of quality developmental projects.
The counter argument to that could be that, as human beings, individuals as we are, we all set targets, there are resolutions. You set these targets not necessarily because you can meet all within a set.
Targets must be reasonably set. And I'm saying that politicians must learn. Okay, since 1992, we have known. Pick all the manifestos, measure what was achieved in the manifestos vis-a-vis what was said. And we should have come to the conclusion and realization that, look, then we say too many things, and in a manner that perpetuates the derogatory but sometimes deserving description of politicians as being liars. Because you say so many things, knowing very well that you can't do all the things. And if that happens, then it becomes difficult for those of us who teach the students that politics is not about the game of lies and deceit. So my point is that, okay, President Akufo-Addo could focus on his signature project, FreeSHS.
But he's delivering
on it. Hold on. He could focus on the FreeSHS, do it and do it very well. It has certain challenges. It's been correct. Okay. So my point is not about ticking the box to say that I said I'll do it and I've done it. Okay. Focus on FreeSHS. If it is doomsday you want to banish, you focus on it. If it is railways, you want to ensure that you want to deal with all our road networks and also ensure that our railways are good, railway networks are good. You focus on these 1, 2, 3 and tell Ghanaians that this is what I told you I'll be doing. I've delivered on it, and you can now see that people can attend secondary schools freely, and the quality too is, if you go to top-notch, if you go to, South Africa,
yeah.
Government schools are schools that provide quality education. Private schools are schools that people who fall out of the system attend. But if you come to our part of the world, it appears that private schools do better than government schools. So my point is that you can concentrate so much on what government is doing and make sure that you enhance the quality. All other things should be, to be put on hold. Do these things, do them very well, so that but at the end of the day, if you are exiting, we can properly attach your name to your signature projects, and we'll know that they've been done very well. I believe that should be the way to go, rather than saying so many things that you want to do, and knowing that at the end of the day, there are some of them that you tell Ghanaians that you have done, but you know that the implementation would just amount to just taking the boxes and all that.
I feel strongly you are trying to speak specifically to the issue of FreeSHS.
No, please. I'm just saying that.
What is your own assessment of the implementation of the FreeSHS policy?
Well, I mean, for starters, I will say that the government has done well by showing a clear indication that it was willing right from the word go to match policy prescriptions or policy interventions with its manifesto content. Sometimes regimes come to power, they promise, and the kinds of things that they do doesn't match what was captured in their manifesto. But they've been true to their. I have problems with their problems with the FreeSHS. I mean, I, for instance, believe that FreeSHS wasn't the way to go, because I don't see why government. I'm a teacher. I earn a salary. I don't see why government should be able to pay the salary, of the school fees of my children and all that. So I was thinking that we could have done something to be able to identify the real needy people and then support them. In this university, when I was a student, there was an intervention that catered for poor but needy students. Yeah. Okay, they investigated for them. And all that. So I, for one, I don't support the intervention or the FreeSHS as a program. But the point is, to the extent that they said they would do it and they have done it, we have to commend them. Okay, but I'm saying that they could have added about 3 or 4 more projects and put their effort and concentration on those areas, and then all the rest, leave it for the next term. Okay. If another regime, if another president comes, he also identifies about 3 or 4. So, because you see, from the way things are going, you can see that politicians do these things to only appeal to their core support base. You see, the floaters, the floating voters, the undecided voters, those who are true election kingmakers, they listen to some of these things, and they know that you are not being serious with us. Because... But
with all of this, the MPP still won the 2016 elections, if really your analogy is anything to go by. No. Because the kingmakers did hear them make this promise, and they still voted for them nonetheless.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, listen to me, I'm saying that they look at some of these things and they determine whether you are serious or you are not serious. Okay? And if you don't take care, a time would, come, and they would decide that even though you have the credibility and you would better govern, if you have overly promised, they will go for the other alternative. And I'm saying that what would help is for regimes or politicians to promise little and deliver on them than promising everything, knowing very well that you can't.
And they may not be able to deliver. Okay, so you make a good point there.
Another challenge I have with the manifestos of the 2 main political parties, it's not about the content, but it's about the timing of the release of these manifestos.
Is it for both parties?
For both parties.
Okay.
In the lead up to the 2016 elections, we had a challenge where both parties felt they had to delay the release of their manifestos because they were playing hide and seek with us. people felt that, well, if I
bring mine,
first, it will be copied and all that. And so they were playing hide and seek with all of us and all that. And so that delayed the manifestos, the release of the manifestos of the political parties. And that also limited grasp of the contents of the manifestos. And also that perpetuated politics of insults and politics that plays on the emotional keyboards of people for a long time before the elections. And I thought that was unacceptable. But that was for 2016. And so I was thinking that going into 2020, they would have released their manifestos, early enough. Previously, before 2016, I think parties were releasing their manifestos about 6 months or 8 months to elections and all that. But now, it's like you want to wait, you want to release your manifestos 3 months to election. I think it is something that is absolutely unacceptable. Why? Because, first of all, without manifestos being released in the body politic, you see the discourse and the politicking centers on the discussion of irrational issues. And these irrational issues and their discussions always inflame passion. Okay. And then also, if manifestos are not released on time, it becomes difficult for us, all of us, to grasp the contents of If you mention 2016, if you mention MPP manifesto, what everybody will tell you is FreeSHS.
FreeSHS, yes.
But have you read the MPP manifesto?
Yes, I have. It
contains so many laudable projects.
Yes.
Why should all the projects be reduced to FreeSHS? And so my point is that a timely release of manifesto would ensure that we would all be able to identify the different projects within the manifesto so that these issues would shape our discourse. They would also shape the choice that we make in our election. So my point is, I'm looking forward to a situation where if you pick a single Ghanaian, and you tell him what is in NDC's manifesto, he should, at the minimum, be able to mention about 10 projects in the manifesto, or 5 key projects in the manifesto. If you interview a Ghanaian, an ordinary Ghanaian, if you ask what is in the MPP's manifesto, he should be able to mention about 5.
And you think releasing these manifestos early?
These manifestos,
going to change that?
Listen. Releasing these manifestos early enough would ensure that the political elites themselves are properly socialized about the contents of the manifesto. Go and ask the political elites in the various political parties. They themselves, they are ignorant about most of the contents of their manifestos, just as they are ignorant about the ideological prescriptions of the parties that they belong to. They themselves,
so
they don't know.
Democrats are not even practicing social democracy.
It's not only about they not practicing it or something, but if you say social democracy, for instance, it has principles, it has certain assumptions that go under it. If you say liberal democracy, there are assumptions. Go and ask whether they know. In the same way, go and ask the top political elites of these various political parties. They themselves, they don't know about the content. So my point is, if you bring it out early enough, they themselves would socialize or they will study it. And when they study it, they'll be able to now translate it in the local languages. And when they go on their campaign, they begin to educate Ghanaians. So the Ghanaians will also be, it takes time for political socialization. It takes time for some of these information to be thrown to people for them to digest. Okay, so if you bring it early enough, you yourself, you have time to study the contents, and you have enough time to also tell people that when you talk about MPP, it's not only about FreeSHS, it's also about this, it's also about that. So when you talk about NDC, it's not only about quality SHS, it's also about this, so that we would have an array of issues and we know the various policy positions on the various aspects of our lives that politicians, stand for. And then based on that, we'll be able to make informed choices.
Okay. Would you
say... The argument has been that why are you in a hurry to release these manifestos? Because after all, Ghanaians do not...
They don't read them.
They don't read them, or our supporters don't vote, based on manifesto contents. Okay, we cannot pander to that kind of weakness.
But
listen, why won't we?
Statement of fact?
Why won't we? Yeah, I mean, you speak to the politicians.
So if it is indeed a statement of fact, then why don't you play the game like you said?
My point is that, but why? But is it right? We teach normative political theory. You are better off.
Hold on. They are in it for them. They are in it to win. So it's not about. It's
not about the interest of the politician to win. It's about what the interest of the citizenry and the interest of the nation that matters. Before political parties were formed, democracy was already in existence. Democracy predates partisan politics. Okay, so my point is that it's not about partisan interest, and political parties say, well, our supporters, they will not even read, and after all, manifesto contents do not even shape vote. It is true. Okay, there are so many theories or factors that shape voting. We have the party identification model of voting that says that people vote for the political parties that they support. Yeah. We have ideological orientation. People look at ideologies. We have sociological model where people will say, well, we go to the same church, we come from the same tribe. And we have the rational choice where people look at bread and butter issues. We cannot, if we want to develop as a nation, we cannot encourage the practice where we want people to vote purely on party identification. So that politicians will say, we will not even release it on time because our people will vote for us anyway because they belong to our party. No. Let us go beyond that to ensuring that people would not only vote for us because they are MPP or NDC. They would also vote for us because they are aware of what we are proposing and what we stand for.
Okay, let's take a look at the Opposition National Democratic Congress. They are seeking to recapture power from the NPP. And they are offering a lot of things. If you've read their manifesto, or at least portions of it as regards education, I'm sure you'd come across a number of interesting things. Let's go to the universities bill, for instance, because I know because you're a teacher at the university, it's something of immense importance to you. They say they are going to cancel it, they will repeal it, and that they do not think there's the need for any universities bill to regulate anything at the universities. I'm sure this must be good news for you and for your other colleagues here.
Well, you remember, is it 2 years ago, I single-handedly championed that cause, of fighting against the public universities bill. It's come up again. There are discussions.
It's not a political issue.
Well, it's not a political issue. My colleagues say they are for outright rejection, and I belong to them, and I associate myself with their position. And I know that at the moment there are discussions among those who initiated, the bill, and there are discussions, and I know also that during the launch of the NDC's manifesto, Opoku-Agyemang said it categorically.
Were you engaged? Was UTAG engaged when these political parties were coming out with these things to target this?
I don't know. I'm not a UTAG executive, and so I wouldn't be able to delve deeper into some of the issues that.
But you are aware of some of these.
But I'm aware that at least in Legon here, the position is that it's been rejected outrightly, and
elsewhere, what's the position? What's the national body saying?
I'm
that
sure
they are open to negotiations about modifying the content.
I'm sure. I know that there were negotiations and there were discussions and with UTAG and all that. But some people also felt that the contents, the bill does not appear to solve any.
There's no problem. Why create a problem?
That's another view.
So for yourself and for your colleagues now, you are faced with the choice of two political parties. One saying, listen, this is what we are doing. We are going to implement so and so. If you have challenges, we'll try and work around it, but this is it. It's going to happen. There's another saying, no, it shouldn't happen. There's no problem. So what mischief are you trying to cure? Which you appear to be subscribing to. Now, is that to suggest the teachers may be more aligned towards the NDC this time around based on that single thing they have?
I don't think so. These are very independent-minded people. It's about academic freedom, and for us, even if salaries are not too good, they are not on demonstration because of salary. They are on demonstration because of academic freedom, and feeling that there is an effort to, if you like, not so openly, but in a very subtle manner, take it away. And as for that one, it's a life and death matter, and I'm sure that they would. I've now sobered a little on that issue, but I am with them on the position that I have been taking, and I'm sure that going forward with more engagements, policymakers may begin to see eye to eye with the position that my colleagues have taken, and maybe there will be some consensus. But for now, I know that the bill is before the parliamentary subcommittee on education, and I am also aware that because recently the president, during his interview on Aman FM, made a brief remark about it, that there are issues that will have to be looked at and all that. And so I want to hope and believe that as the issues are looked at, there will be some peace.
The NPP in 2016 promised FreeSHS. It appeared to have worked for them, because a number of people kept saying, hey, maybe I'll go school free, I would have a child go to school for free and I wouldn't have to pay a dime. And quite a number of people seem to have bought into that philosophy. Now the NDC is promising free technical vocational education training. And even if you're going to the university, you know what, we'll pay half of your fees, just go. For those of you who have other challenges like accessing students' loan and all, we'll find a way to make things work for you. Situating this into proper perspective, how big a role is this likely to play in the 2020 poll?
Whether you like it or not, there are people who are excited about it. There are people who get excited about some of these things, and to the extent that it solves their problem, why not? They would definitely want to listen to it. But there are others too who may say that, well, these are mere they are mere rhetorics and all that. So definitely you have a section of the citizenry who will be excited and who will be swayed by some of these promises. But you also have a section of the citizenry who will say that, well, these are merely promises, promises that are just being given and all that. And so my point really is that it's not about saying everything. It's about saying few and making sure,
the right things.
Making sure that you can do them.
Now, with a few months to the elections, previously some said it wasn't really much of a contest between John Dramani Mahama and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. A few months ago, he did name a running mate, and that appeared to have tipped the scale in a certain way. And you could see and hear a lot of people, those playing the gender card, suggesting, well, there's a lady, there's a potential to have a first vice president who's a female. Some also playing the academic card to suggest that, well, this also appeals much more to the neutrals than even someone you said was a governor or was a deputy governor or so. So from where you sit, I know, of course, with that research, you may not really be able to predict, but with the appointment of Jane and Opoku-Agyemang as the running mate, do you think the NDC stands a better chance in this election?
Well, I think whoever made that choice of Nana Opoku-Agyemang was a master politician. Okay. In politics, you are very careful in determining who you select. Particularly, you look at who cannot be attacked so much and who doesn't have a lot of baggage. One of the things that President Nana Akufo-Addo said in his campaign was that he was incorruptible, and that you cannot see that he has gone to spend or is going to embezzle any public money. And it was true. You understand? And so people could not point to him, to he as a person, that you've done X, Y, Z. And President Mahama, and I'm sure his team of advisors, may have looked at a whole lot of things. But the selection of Nana Opoku-Agyemang is a master choice. Because you see, all of a sudden, people wanted to attack her. But they realized, you see, they decided to set a trap for the opposition. If you talk too much, you'll be insulting womanhood. And if you want to know what it means to do that, go and ask former CPP's flag bearer, George Opesika Agude. Go and ask when he said that women are merely object of comfort, and ask what happened to him. And so my point is that, you see, by that point, he's an academic. And so you see, academics, we have our own ways of doing things, very refined. They cannot descend into the gutters of politics and all that. And if you are not careful, you attack her too much, and you have a section of the citizenry, in fact, the majority of the citizens, they are women. They are about over 52% of our population. If you don't take care and you infuriate them to form a constituency against you, you are gone. And so you see, her selection has done a certain good to the Mahama ticket. Previously, before a selection, it was something, I don't know how to put it, but you see, it's now, the chances are now moving to 50-50. Okay.
But the NPP is saying that you are not voting for Jane and Opoku-Agyemang. You are voting for John Dramani Mahama.
Well, that's something that can be said, but you have a section of the citizenry who pair the one who is your number two would make their. I mean, when politicians are going for their campaign, why is it that they go with certain people who are not contesting? You'll be there, they'll call you, please accompany us, follow us, and let's go and campaign.
Yeah.
The idea is that when the citizenry or when voters see that this particular person has joined in the campaign, it adds to your political capital and goodwill, and it better, it enhances your chances.
So a lot appears to be going the way of the NDC. However, their horse appear to be throwing some spokes into the wheels. This book, Working with Rollins, and its impact on John Dramani Mahama's chances of winning the 2020 polls. Is it really as significant as many think it is?
I thought politically the timing was wrong. He should have. Professor Ahoy is a seasoned politician or something, and I don't.
You think it was deliberate? It was strategic. Releasing the book at this time.
I've not spoken to him, but I.
Do you think?
What I can say is that politically the timing was so wrong, because this is a time that your party that you belong to is seeking an election, and you want to bring everybody on board. Okay. Now that you've released this book, that is making allegations, or that paints some people, including the founder, black.
Essentially pushing the founder away.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to be done? Where do you want President Mahama to stand? Where do you want now Opoku-Agyemang to stand? Must they come and stand with you, or should they go and be with Rollins? I mean, it's a difficult situation, but maybe good for them. It is dying down, but I thought politically the timing, he got the timing so wrong, because this is the time you need all. You need to appeal to the Rollinses and to all others who have rejoined us and written to clarify or written to debunk some of the claims in the book. You need all of them together so that you all remain together to push for your agenda of seeking to recapture power. This is not a time to be writing or coming out with such a book with such contents that could divide the support base and also the top echelons of the party.
Listening to you, I begin to now understand why a lot of people say Prof understands the game. Professor Gyampo understands the political game. You must play the game. So why are you not into politics?
Me, myself.
Why don't you become an MP or something of the sort?
Oh, there are so many reasons too. First of all, I teach political science.
Oh, there are a lot of teachers who have entered politics.
Well, I'm speaking from my conviction. You see, a political scientist is a referee who knows the game of politics. So when Team A does wrong, he whistles. When Team B does wrong, he whistles. Okay, so by the calling I've chosen for myself, I believe that I should remain in the middle. And you see, it is actually good. See, our friends from the NDC, our friends from the MPP, in Ghana, our politics is so divisive that if you go one side, you automatically would lose your friends from the other side and all that. So which one is good? Going to side A and losing side B, or going to side B and losing side? I cherish the friends that I have in NDC and MPP. And then number two, I don't know whether I have the temperament to be able to withstand the kinds of things that are said to politicians. You see, if you want to hear proper insults, I'm not even a politician, but sometimes the kinds of things that people say about me, okay, let me tell them. It's only people who tell me, but when I say my mind, I don't read your comments. I don't read those negative comments. Whether they are positive or negative, I don't read them. I don't listen to news. I don't watch television. I don't read newspapers. I say things from my mind. Okay, I will not watch or listen to be told about something that would infuriate or get me angry and all that. I mean, it's gotten to that point where to maintain your sanity, you just have to remain focused on your work and to ignore distractions. So my point is, I'm not sure whether I have the temperament, whether I can withstand when people are no longer even insulting you, they are insulting your mother and all that. And so maybe people have been asking this question, but maybe when I don't know, when I stop teaching.
But in the past few years, you've been doing a lot of donation to a lot of people in your constituency. Is that you prepping the way?
I don't understand.
Your exit strategy from teaching.
I don't understand why you people ask this question. The point is this. I come from Salt Pond, and my mother comes from Salt Pond, my father comes from Ekwapem. And I go to Salt Pond more because my father had to flee Ghana, the shores of Ghana, in 1979 when Rollins came to stage a coup that killed WWK Akufu. My father was with Akufu, so he would have been killed if he had stayed. So I grew up before I got to know my dad, and so anytime I said I was going to my hometown, my mother took us to Salt Pond and all that. And my mother tells me that growing up, she thought I was even a sickler, or had a sickle cell, because I was always sick. I was always sick, and Salt Pond Hospital, where it is located on a hill. And sometimes I'll be convulsing, and then she will carry me and we'll climb that hill and all that. And so one day I went there, I saw the place, I thought it was not in good shape. And I remembered what my mommy told me, that I was always rushed to the emergency, the accident and emergency ward. I was always being rushed there when I was growing up. And I said that, so if that is the case, as a way of also giving back to the society, why don't we adopt that place and then ensure that if you have something small, we go and give. See, adoption of a place does not necessarily mean that you have to spend money. Those people, I call them sons and daughters of Salt Pond, that they should also go back to Salt Pond and give back to the community. My adoption of the accident and emergency ward never meant that I always had to spend money there. Sometimes you go talking to people that have adopted this particular ward. We need A, B, C. Can you assist me? And I've had so many in the various donations that I've done to the hospital. I'll tell you that some of the majority of the items came from well wishes. I go talking to people. This is a hospital. This is a place I've adopted. I want you to help me go donate. Somebody say, I'll donate a wheelchair. Somebody say, I'll give you this. I'll give you that. And then sometimes you also add the little we have and then to top up to go donate. And so it is just about trying to help where I.
So it's just it's born out of a genuine desire. A lot of people,
listen, I'm not a politician. I can't do partisan politics for now.
For now?
Yes.
For now?
For now, I can't do partisan politics. Maybe when I like I said, when I quit teaching, I'll consider it. But for now, I cannot see myself taking one side. And some of our students are actively partisan.
Some of your colleagues are also doing that.
Well, I mean, it's a choice. I respect them. It's a choice, but I feel that I want to remain in the middle.
In the middle.
And
at least for now. Let's put that caveat in there.
Well, for now, I'm saying when I stop teaching, and I don't know when I'll stop teaching.
Thank you very much for your time today.
It is a pleasure.
Professor Ransford Yaw Gyampo is a lecturer here at the University of Ghana, Legon. He has been our guest right here on 21 Minutes with KKB. He's also the head of Youth Bridge Research Institute. They've been doing a lot of advocacy as far as things relating to the youth are concerned. I'm sure in this very critical period when we are all working towards the elections, some of these youth will come in very handy. He's the one playing that role, leading that very organization and putting all of that energy to very good use. That has been it for this episode of 21 Minutes with KKB. My name is Kwabena Kyenkyenhene Boateng. I'll see you soon again, hopefully, with another guest you're expecting.